Good morning, my friends. Thank you so much for coming back to school today. It is Monday, so we are going to be doing some more language arts, some reading and writing. The first thing that we're going to do is reading today. Now, last week when we were in school, we were talking about answering questions about a story that we read, right? We read a story about some mice who were ice skating, and I asked you questions and you needed to try and pay attention to the story to figure those things out. Today, we're going to do something a little bit different. Today, by the end of the story, or by the end of the lesson, I want you to be able to say, I can ask questions about a story. All right, so let's read that one more time. I can ask questions about a story. So sometimes I feel like we might get a little bit confused about what it means to ask a question and what it means to just tell something, because I know a lot of us have a lot of fun things to share and to let people know about, but that doesn't really mean that it's a question. So we'll go over what questions are really quick, and then we'll get into our story, all right? So when you ask a question, you're asking somebody something to get more information, right? You're curious, you don't understand everything completely. So these are some of the ways that we can start our questions. We can ask, who? And I'll put a question mark at the end just so we remember that these are questions. Who? So this is something that you might ask about the characters. Who is standing over there? Who is the one who stole all those cookies? Who is going to the store, right? You're asking about the characters, the ones in the story that are doing things. You can ask what. What is asking about something usually, right? So what are we going to do today? What are we going to read? What's going on over there? What are you wearing? All right, so those are a lot of our what questions. Another thing that we can ask is when. When is asking about the setting. So when something happened, we're thinking about time. When are we going to go ice skating? When are we going to have lunch? When did that person do that? When you're asking about a time in the setting. Also, another setting question is where. So that's the location of something, right? Where did I put my pencil? Where is the park? Where did I leave my shoes? Right? So you're wondering about the place of something. Another question we can ask is why? And that's when you want to know the reason for something. Why are you wearing a green shirt today? Why are we at home? Why can't I have ice cream for dinner? So you want to know the reason. Another question that we can ask is how. I ask how a lot. How are you doing today, right? So those are all of our question words. You want to gain information, not just telling someone something. You want to know more about something. All right? So I think that this story that we're going to read today is going to give us a lot of chances to ask questions. Okay. And just like always, I have complete permission from Scholastic to read this story today. This story is called The Little Scarecrow Boy. The Little Scarecrow Boy, that's the title. It says that it's by Margaret Weiss Brown. She's the author. What does the author do? Writes the words And it says pictures by David Diaz. The pictures. Who does the pictures? Who draws those? The illustrator, right? And let me show you something cool. What happens when we have the front cover and we open it up to see the back cover? It makes a nice big picture for us. All right. So this story, The Little Scarecrow Boy. I think that I can think of a question to ask already. So my first question that I am going to ask is, what is a scarecrow? We might not all know what scarecrows are. So when we ask questions, that can give us things to look forward to in the book. And maybe it'll help us answer those, all right? So let's go ahead and see. Right. There we go. Once upon a time in a cornfield, there lived a scarecrow and his scarecrow wife and their scarecrow little boy. So I have another question. Who do you think is the scarecrow little boy? I think it's this one. Every day of the world, Old Man Scarecrow went into the cornfield to make faces at the crows. Make faces at the crows. Do you ever go outside and make faces at birds? I sure don't. So I'm wondering, why does this scarecrow go and make faces at the birds? And every day of the world, his little scarecrow boy wanted to come too. And every day of the world, Old Man Scarecrow said, "No, no, little boy, you can't go. You're not fierce enough to scare a crow. Wait till you grow." So every day the little scarecrow boy stayed at home all day and just grew. So when we read a little bit more, that helped us answer one of those questions. We wanted to know, why do scarecrows make faces at crows? And we found out, you're not fierce enough to scare a crow. So they do it to scare them. Every day out in the fields, Old Man Scarecrow waved his arms and made terrible faces. Can you make a terrible face? Let me see your terrible face. He made such terrible faces that the crows nearly lost their feathers at the sight of him there, and they flew far, far away. Every evening when the sun went down, Old Man Scarecrow came rattling home, and all evening he sat in his scarecrow house, teaching his scarecrow boy how to make fierce faces. Old Lady Scarecrow whistled through her straw teeth at the looks of them there. So here they are making faces. Another question that I'm thinking, what does the word fierce mean? Fierce. I'll read the sentence again. And all evening he sat in his scarecrow house, teaching his scarecrow boy how to make fierce faces. So what can we use to help us? We know that they want to scare crows. And if we also look, we can look at the picture to help us. So those are two things that we can use to help us. Are they making happy faces? That wouldn't scare a crow. So fierce faces must mean scary faces, and we can match that with the picture. But early in the morning when the sun came up, it was the same old no. No, little boy, you can't go. You're not fierce enough to scare a crow. Wait till you grow. So the little scarecrow boy stayed at home all day and just grew. Then one day, after the little boy had learned all 6 of his father's terrible faces so that he could make them one after the other, he decided to run away. Early the next morning, he would go out into the cornfield and he would frighten a crow. So before the sun was up, or Old Man Scarecrow was up, or Old Lady Scarecrow was up, the little Scarecrow boy slipped out of bed just quietly on tiptoe and went quietly, quietly, quietly out of the house. Over to the cornfield, up on his father's post, in his father's place. It was a fine shining morning with the sun gleaming green down the corn blades. Crows circled in the air far away over the trees. The little Scarecrow boy waved his arms through the air. He had never felt fiercer in all his life. And then came flying a big black crow. Oh, 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 the little Scarecrow made his first fierce face. And still came flying the big black crow. I have another question, one of our question words. How do you think that the Scarecrow is doing? Do you think that he's doing a good job of scaring the crow away or a not so good job? Yeah, I don't think he's doing too great of a job. The crow's still coming. Oh, 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 the little Scarecrow boy made his second fierce face, and still came flying the big black crow. His third face. Oh, 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 time to go. So the little Scarecrow boy ran, and he ran down the corn rows. The black flapping wings made a noise now, and looking back, he could see the blue sky through the ragged feathers of the nearest crow. What's going on? So what do you think he did? Let's see. He ran and he ran, then he stopped. His fourth face, and still came flying the big black crow. So he ran and he ran and he ran and he ran and he ran. And the crow flew and he flew and he flew and he flew. And the little Scarecrow boy ran. So he's just running away, right? Because he's not doing a good job of scaring all those crows away. And then he made his fifth and next to fiercest face of all. And still came flying the big black crow. The little boy had only one face left now and hardly any breath. Even so, he stopped, and with his arms stretched wide above his head, and his fingers drooping on his hands, he gave the big crow. What do you think's gonna happen? Make a prediction. The sixth face. And whoa, the old crow flew backwards through the air, feathers flying everywhere until there wasn't even the shadow of a crow on the land. A scarecrow at last. The little Scarecrow boy knew that he was as fierce as a scarecrow as there was in all the cornfields in all the world. And then he saw a shadow in front of him, and he looked up, and there behind him was Old Man Scarecrow, his father. And his father was proud of his little boy, who had made all 6 faces at the crows. I'm thinking of another question I can ask now. Why do you think the crows flew away? Do you think that it was the little boy Scarecrow or his big dad Scarecrow that actually scared them away? And he picked up his little Scarecrow boy in his Scarecrow arms, and they went home to breakfast. And when the little Scarecrow grew up, he was the fiercest Scarecrow in all the fields, in all the world. All right. So that is the end of our story. Now I want you to think, What are some questions that you could ask? Were you thinking about any of those questions that I asked during the story? I'm sure that you were. So, the last thing I want you to think about is if you ever met the Scarecrow, what might you ask him? Do you have anything that you're wondering? Anything that you're curious about? Maybe you could ask, why did you sneak off in the middle of the night? Why did you think that was a good idea? Right? So, another one that we can think about. You might be wondering, so what do scarecrows do? Why is it important for them to scare off crows? So, what I want you to do, maybe you can figure out that answer and we'll talk about it later on our Zoom. So, thank you for watching this. Go ahead and do the writing video and I will see you on Zoom.